Gere Donda Jeje Gyono Mitene Janda Doma Tamo Duche Kaye Dende Yo Saje Beje Joje Medo Tama Dedo Niche Nyende Nyemba Saje Jendo Mede Wewayi Rowe Namda Jenda Jeba Sho Idama Guru Rana Mandela Gam Niyanda Yame Sanje Chedan Loje Chonam Lai Chanjo Bando Dane Kyamso Age Chujur Yebe Sonam Yen Dola Benche Sanje Dobara Sho Sanje Chedan Loje Chonamal Chanjo Bando Dane Kyamso Jen Age Chujur Yebe Sonam Yen Dola Benche Sanje Dobara Sho Sanje Chedan Loje Chonam Lai Chanjo Bando Dane Kyamso Age Chujur Yebe Sonam Dola Benche Sanje Dobara Sho Wala majana gita danya be sangi thamji ji tendo kojala na me kwa yanda ba zobe sanji ji komba no be ji ji to bo shagwe he to bo shawi chedo abe chere mo ji senya be kolon shanju ji sembi se sembe gon sembre fyo.
Let me remind all of ourselves to cultivate the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. With that kind of bodhicitta motivation, that we should all participate in this teaching.
Wala dangaran chamalo ko ani che bunde yabada che duggoya te da ke chim chagyo res.
I feel it is important for all of us to have interest in the study and practice of Dharma or spirituality, and also feel the importance of cultivating or practicing Dharma.
Ta ke chi jinse karesena ane ngaran chole da ane likpe cho khande chi ne ya khande chi ne ya ta ngaran so go yores atun chamalo ne chedumni yungu yor ma to ye da song kebola so batende thoni yungu ya mares.
So the reasons why we need to have interest in and cultivate spirituality or Dharma is because the goodness and the best of everything that we seek must come through spirituality or Dharma. We cannot expect the kind of happiness that we are seeking to come through worldly activities such as doing business.
Wala da tega na yin ke ngaran so minde peri chiyun kande ji ne ya ane shewan de yin ta minde bi kande ji ne ngaran san de hu ya mar te minde yen chen ta me ba so gu te me ba zo ya te ta chhe ton zo gu gar ma to jungo pon so tan ta zo ya me ba te ta che ba.
And we also don't want any kind of unwanted pains and problems. Never did we want them in the past, nor do we want them in the present, or never ever we want them in the future as well. So that being the case, so what can really help us to get rid of unwanted pains and problems for good is nothing else except cultivating Dharma or spirituality. We cannot do that through any conventional or worldly activities. There's no way that worldly activities that we mostly engage in can help us to get rid of suffering, pains and problems for good. So therefore, it is like absolutely, true that we need Dharma to be able to do that.
No, that tende gani big point the gear do what kitchen breast. That tea any that tende shayaka to sweet ngaran tanda ngaran so yabu hibish tanda radio hermas.
So what I'm trying to say here is that it is, essential for us to abandon negativities, negative karmas, and to cultivate positive karmas and virtuous actions. And so at the moment we have got the seeds to do those things in our mind.
That can take any some don't shake when I did sometimes. Naranzu Yawa tan ring tanda Yawa tan Yada the Tundul Shavina and the church you could cook up she told Pai Jani and around and the nigger there was a like you and couple of us.
So we find it really difficult to go into really very sort of a deep thoughts and analysis. Let's consider just this much thought or thinking to appreciate our present existence and opportunities that we have to do positive things. The fact that we are not in any of the three unfortunate states of rebirth. We are not in the hell. We are not in the hungry ghost world called Prata's world. We are not in the lesser kind of animal world. And which means basically that in those states of existence, not only that, the beings experience all kinds of suffering and tremendous suffering, but they do not really find an opportunity to practice spirituality or Dharma. So the fact that we are not in any of those states is a good news, and it's a great fortune that we have the opportunity to cultivate Dharma.
That Tagana ke penna Laneli Sevinia. Flat serum but Zume like Gil Seviana, Chunta, any chug that Sikoyan of Litani, Pazuri. Tagana Yigi, and then the Zug Halishev in Devata and Zukam Halishev in any the Elam go corny. Two do have some of the right hit a couple chadiers.
The fact that we are not born in the higher levels of existence we call the divine environments or in the celestial world is a fortune and is a great opportunity for us to cultivate Dharma. Now let me explain this a little bit more. What I mean by that is that if we had been born in any of the four formless stages or the levels of existence as celestial beings in those formless stages, let alone practicing Dharma, we may not even hear even a word of Dharma. So Dharma is completely lacking in those states of existence. Now let's imagine that we are born as divine beings or celestial beings in higher levels of form and desire realms of existence. But in that case, that we will be mostly kind of absorbed, if you will, into experiencing the pleasures of the celestial world. We get so sucked into that we may not think about or even find an opportunity to cultivate Dharma. So the fact that we are not in those levels of existence means that we have an opportunity to cultivate Dharma. So the bottom line is this, that as we look at our present life and existence, we have got the fortune and conducive, if you will, opportunities to be able to engage in the study and practice of Dharma.
Ani tuku zangbun dele ani ta ngaran chama lo chul lo so su joma de pe kira kawa zambu yimba jing zi shene hakob shegures.
So we must all be able to recognize and appreciate our own good fortune. That is that we have this wonderful human existence, and that we have been able to develop interest in spirituality and direct our mind into spirituality.
So given
the opportunity we have now, it is important for us to engage in listening to teaching and contemplating the teachings. And it's not enough for us to simply listen to teachings, in which case we might learn things through hearing the teachings. Perhaps our understanding will be very much at what we call the levels of words or terminologies. And as you have heard Geshe use the word, that in which case it is like we may have developed a certain amount of intellectual understanding of Dharma. But that's really not our purpose of why we listen to teachings. Our purpose is to, deeply understand the meanings of the teachings. And so for that, we really need to go beyond, the words and the terminologies. So we need to do the contemplation to get into the deep meanings of teachings.
Then Pram turned in Kansatis, and a Pram kita pushing Shumbati and the road Yan to Dev in a tag called Vegetable, Cargo and the Prang in Himbu to go over us. The time and that Yamlema Prang Shumbanagi Chagas, Prang Shumbe road Yamanagi Chagas.
Now let me give you an example, to explain, to make my points. So if we really want to taste, sugar in the sugar cane, then if we simply bite just on the bark of a sugar cane or the skin of the sugar cane, we are really not going to get the real taste of a sugar cane, because the real taste of the sugar cane is inside the skin or the bark. So learning Dharma or through just words at the level of the words and terminologies is similar to biting on the bark of a sugar cane, but we are really not getting the real taste of a sugar cane.
Rota pun de la tensim ginskanand. Zati ro porang ro te wa ro te nyomate di any di nangi ga ne cheje se heba cha maze de nyam sa lang batele ani ta ron porang ro muni ton rabana chagyo res.
So if we try to go beyond the words and terminologies, or that kind of intellectual understanding, and then try to really see, so to speak, peel off the bark of a sugar cane or remove the skin, and then really eat the inside of the sugar cane with the real taste of a sugar cane. Now that is likened to deeply contemplating the meanings of the teachings. So as we do that, then we really, get at the essence of the teachings. We are not just at the level of mere intellectualism or the words, but now we are much deeper. So that has to come through contemplation.
Well, tangaran to chini shabate, correct than the sugar said, and chick go out the tender have it. They shane any chick the yams lani, gum go.
So our purpose of engaging in Dharma is, of course, we listen to teachings so that we are able to develop certain understanding of the teaching. And then we have to contemplate the meaning of the teaching to really go into the deeper issues, if you will. And then as that deeper meaning is understood, we have to cultivate the Dharma or put it into practice. So therefore meditation is key to gaining experience into the teaching. So our purpose of participating in Dharma is to get a real taste of the Dharma, which has to come through this whole process of listening, contemplation, and meditation.
That is Shabala Karigo, Takeshi Karesana, and in Derita. We need to rang Sunja, Churum Karina, Churum Sunya, Chimbaina, the Vichibu Sunyata, Tagana Yigati, Lagba. And some use with Nova Nation using pleasure. And now the Domato soon at that, soon as the kitchen budget, the room secure, somebody.
So as we talk about practicing Dharma, what really involves is at a very foundational level, if you will, and it's actually more than at the foundational level. But at that very level, what's important for us is to abide by a pure ethics, codes of ethical behavior. Of course, there are different types of ethics we talk about in Buddhism, and even for regular lay practitioners who are not monastics, the basic ethics consist of abiding by the ethics to refrain from or not to do the 10 negative actions of body, speech, and mind. Then, of course, lay practitioners might have more than that ethics. They might have taken bodhisattva ethics. They might have taken tantric ethics. So whatever levels of ethics that we have taken, it is essential for us to keep our ethics intact.
He told Karata, Deva the kitchen with Chagas, Church, Church, Devaseta, Devaseta, kitchen with Chagas, Deva Hundo Mother Sheva, and you did like some perishes. Deva the any kitchen with Cherries Allinson.
And so, abiding by pure ethics, what is another important element that we should cultivate or have is faith. The Tibetan term is called Teba, trust or faith. Faith and trust in, I'm using both words here just to convey the Tibetan meaning of the term, Teba, in the teaching and in the teacher. And faith plays really a significant role in our spiritual cultivation and development. As Geshe quoted the stanza from his memory, which basically states that just as a mother's existence precedes the birth of a child, so does faith exist or precedes the generation of all kinds of remarkable qualities. So now we can understand the importance of faith in our spiritual growth.
So that Rang Rangi Sheva, and it is Sheva, the sound tantish. The Abu Imbata, and Rangi Shevi Tabsheni, the Shevi Talujamba, the Tamita Kase, Mundechita was a race. Yula Yepe, and you did the Rang Jula, and ngunde karase den deba sheba tele ngunde jitebas.
There are different types of faith, deba in Tibetan, and there is what we call aspiring faith, ngunde jiteba. What it really means is that as we study and engage in authentic spirituality or Dharma, and Dharma has so many wonderful qualities, and as we aspire to cultivate those qualities in our own mind, that kind of aspiration, that kind of a trust that also comes as aspiration in the qualities is called aspiring faith.
Pena maranso shamdro shiditsane sanje kunju chökunde gundu kunjuke tujile yebe ani yonte zu chomalo ta rang thomde shene a teba sheba tele ngunde chi teba so sheyu ku jule yebe yonte zu rang jule thoya ge anda sanu tangni tele an teba sheba tele ngunde chi teba sta sebun dote.
Let me give a very clear example here. Like when we take refuge in the three jewels, three ratnas, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and the three jewels have, innumerable, remarkable qualities. And our purpose of going for refuge in them is because basically we aspire the same qualities for ourselves. So we would like to have them. So with that kind of aspiration, when we cultivate faith in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, that kind of faith and aspiration, so to speak, combined, is what we call aspiring faith in the three jewels.
So that you might kill around so tomorrow. Sanje ta chute gindu rang te the reaga sano tan tebashiba ta ting munde tebasta tindi jires tang sano ngaba tangros tunjo.
So in other words, what I'm saying is that as we go for refuge in the three jewels, we aspire for the same qualities for ourselves that they have, which is in other words saying that one day I would just like to be a jewel like them. I would like to be among them. So with that kind of aspiration, when we cultivate faith in the three jewels, that is an aspiring faith, and we really do need to think about these things and cultivate aspiring faith.
That song much that never song much money to the shirt on the mebe. She could say you take Kundi Tonsnatal and down it have us losing.
Now there is another kind of faith, we call it Tangvedeba, which literally means clear faith. Now this is the kind of faith where we have this pure, if you like, admiration for the preeminent qualities such as those the three jewels have. Our state of mind is so pure and clean that we just have this awe and pure admiration in the qualities of the three jewels. So that is a clear faith.
That true, rang true, do you get the Tesson Zani Mevan, did Dubain, and then Dibu Yang Tabajar and Jumate, the each in Samashin, the land down with ever Chang.
So if we have this complete trust in the Dharma that we are following, and we have really no doubt, we completely trust it with this pure state of mind, and so with such a trust, we think that, okay, one day I will be able to, gain all those realizations of Dharma. So that pure, pristine state of mind, with complete trust in Dharma, for example, is an excellent example of clear faith.
That you change the that's somebody. You change the table, that's Sayulin Lucian, that you change. I think those Sanji the Kurt again, the self Zombaina, the Lord on the May, some type, only you just Samachi, she's not there, and you change the bus.
And then there is another kind of faith which is called Yiche Jiteba, which the Yiche means to trust, literally. So this is faith in the form of conviction, that when we go for refuge in the three jewels, we have this conviction in ourselves that you see, trusting them completely in their abilities to, help me, therefore I go, I seek refuge in them. That kind of conviction, total has a trust in the qualities of three jewels is what we call yichejiteba, faith as a conviction.
Yu tela, ta yu she yu kan de ji ne, she yu tela ni ji de ba she bi na, she tu da mu san da ji yun tin de yu me san ya, ta sum de tewa ji bu ru.
So if we were to cultivate faith as a conviction, yichejiteba, in whatever objects we go for refuge in, then there should not be even a slightest, doubt in our mind that, if I trust them in their abilities to help me, really, would they be able to help or not? We should not have that kind of a slight, a doubt in our mind. We just completely, it's a total sort of a surrender, if you like, in our trust in the three jewels. So the way we grow spiritually is we have to understand Dharma and then cultivate Dharma in our mind. We have to do meditation, means cultivate Dharma in the mind, and it's through such meditational practice or cultivation that we should be able to realize Dharma qualities in our mind. So in order to experience this, what we call wisdom arising through meditation, that high-level wisdom, it must be preceded by, what comes before that is, cultivating wisdom arising through contemplation or samadhi. And in order to experience that kind of wisdom arising from contemplation, it should be preceded by, or what comes before that is wisdom arising through listening to teaching or hearing the teaching. So how can we have wisdom, arising through, hearing? Is that, of course, we listen to Dharma teachings, but as well as that includes, study of Dharma by ourselves, studying Dharma scriptures on our own, or listening also more like listening to the teachings of Dharma. So where does it all begin? If you ask, what is the foundation for listening, contemplation, and meditation, which are so important because each precedes the other, the preceding ones, like how first we have to cultivate the wisdom arising through listening to teaching, then that gives rise to wisdom, arising from contemplation, that gives rise to wisdom arising from meditation. For all those things to happen, where do we all begin? What is the foundation, basis, if you want or ask? As I said before, the foundation consists of abiding by codes of ethical behavior or keeping our ethics intact. So what is involved in our ethical practice is not to do anything that is negative or negative karmas, which means that we have to understand negativities and their negative consequences. But if we somehow understand what negativity is and what kind of negative outcome it comes out, but somehow in our mind if we say that, okay, that's it, maybe it's not too bad to do this. And if we engage in a negativity, that gets really very serious negative action, because we are undermining the reality here that we knowingly somehow engage in a negativity just by kind of giving ourselves some kind of a lame excuse. Maybe it is not too bad. It's okay, So by doing that, we are undermining the reality of negativity, and that becomes a serious negative karmic action.
No. Something shed step, Chesoshiate, Penata, the local segment, when something Chesoshian, Shebat Pekita, the Wachimich having German.
So as Geshe is saying, the word something, the Chesosha means something means knowingly, and Chesosha means we underestimate or we, that's right, underestimate it. So if we knowingly underestimate the reality and the significance of negativity and engage in it, then that really becomes a serious negativity. It's not like, the negativity as the choice that of a regular negativity. It's much more than that.
No. Rang any relationship because in Andra Rang same time king but the two do it to Takisha Kitchens.
Whether we listen to spiritual teachings such as the one I'm giving you now, or whether we are, studying Dharma or practicing it, it's very important for us to check every now and then whether our state of mind is compatible with, it is in harmony with, Dharma principles.
Ranki, Namju Rangi Lumaka, Luta, Naga Shawashi at the town, training somebody with the two do it that think Takishi.
In other words, what I'm saying is we need to, find out whether our usual actions of body, speech, and mind that we perform, whether they go, whether they accord with Dharma principles, whether they are they agree with Dharma principles, they are harmonious with Dharma principles or not. That's what we have to find out. So as we examine our own actions of body, speech, and mind and see whether these match Dharma principles or not, if they do match, if they are compatible with Dharma, then that's wonderful. There's really nothing to change here. On the other hand, if we find that our usual actions of body, speech, and mind, they do not match with Dharma principles, they mismatch, or they do not accord with, they are incompatible with the Dharma principle. Now, you say that means we need to change our behaviors, or we are creating negativities.
Tang Hamin Haluji Chagres, they join Taki Imagine Takaran Co Luxen with the Duchating Chingrimato, Ane Ran Logina with the Tang Maris.
So if we do not examine our daily actions, right, we kind of, just go about our lives just in the usual way, then what really happens is we get so habituated in the way we behave, we say things or we think about, that once it really becomes a very bad habit, and then, the things really don't get better. See, so that negative habit is something we really need to think about, and so we need to examine our daily life and actions to see whether our actions match with Dharma or not. If they don't, we need to modify our actions.
Chenabata doing it someone local. That Melam Jagota, Melam Takwa Tango, Rang load the choose in Rova Singulos, Rang load the choose in Rova shows, Chue Lam the Doma, Chue Langa Pachemi version, that and dig never some Pangoris.
So, as Dharma practitioners, we need to examine our own actions in everyday life to see whether they accord with Dharma or not, and see whether we need to change our behaviors or not. And also, we need to make earnest, prayers, in that regard. And we should sincerely pray that may I be able to direct my mind into Dharma. That means bring my mind and Dharma into one together. And may I be able to, transform, my spirituality into spiritual path. May Dharma be able to change into spiritual path. May I not be able to face any obstacles or interruptions on the way to cultivate a spiritual path. So we should make those wonderful prayers also as we, we also engage in actions.
Ngara tangi ngama tendo no song songas. Ngaran so ani porang ki nyimbo te tendo ngi ki remato porang ki shimba te ki roti sim ta simba shin de beata de gamar. Ngaran so kai san ngaran so porang ro devata tendo ngi ki was.
Now, why we need to do that, why we need to modify our behaviors, why we need to make those prayers is because, as I gave you that example about the sugar cane and getting the real taste of the sugar cane. Now, that example comes from Sutra. So we do not want simply to bite on the skin or the bark of a sugar cane, We do want to, get the real taste of the sugar cane. If that's what we want, then we really need to, we need to both study and practice.
Maranzo, che number tava tendi nyenkin sonza, che namda ki dugu gramato, tagaza kita, prang shimba na ki tsimba shin deji amaris.
So as practitioners, we should see that we are engaging in Dharma as Dharma or pure Dharma, not that we get caught up with, at a certain superficial level, like just we are biting on the skin of the sugarcane bark, and then as if that's enough, but we really need to get into the real essence of sugarcane. In other words, the point I'm trying to make here is, we should engage in pure practice of Dharma and do not be satisfied with, of course, or get stuck with reflections of a Dharma, appearances of a Dharma. Just don't get caught up with look alike, kind of look like we are a Dharma practitioner or look like what we are doing is Dharma. Look like is not good enough. Just don't get caught up with the superficiality, the appearance, external version of the Dharma. So as much as we really emphasize the importance of practicing Dharma, cultivating Dharma, that's how we, get the real taste of the Dharma. Now the question is, when do we do that? Well, we have to do it, from now and whenever we could have time, because we cannot postpone our practice for some other time, because life is uncertain. Right now, this very moment, we are all very, fortunate to be here together, But once we get dispersed today, we don't know tomorrow if any of us will still be alive or gone. So life is very uncertain, and we might lose the whole opportunity to cultivate Dharma.
Yes,
I think I should remember my hustle and bustle here. So when we are alive, just don't get caught up in the hustle and bustle of life, as if we are so busy running around and being in the hustle and bustle that we don't find time to do Dharma.
알아 단디게 나타나 쇼케도 나랑 참말로 레디 패가 체도 문이 돈이 있어 상하고 땅 그랬을 때 주변이 나랑 나다가 인스
So I have really give serious thought to these things, and I thought sharing these things before I go back to the text are important for all of us. As I talk about these things, I'm also, telling myself the same thing that I'm telling you. We all need to do this. I just don't mean that you need to do that, and as if I don't. We all need to do these things, and we need to think about these things. Let's return to our text where we left off a couple of weeks ago.
Geshe Tembalas, Geshe Tembajawin Junior, Geshe Tembalas, and the Geni Tikis, Yakundua, Shambatan, Inji, Shanju Santa Madena, and the Sam, Junior, Tato, Yendun Juni. Maribes, Malasam Hubes.
Now, going back to this wonderful text called, Personal Advices from Kadampa Geshes, and here, Geshe Temba means the teacher Dom Temba was asked a question by an upasaka. Upasaka is a layperson with layperson's vows. It's not just a regular layperson, but somebody with a layperson's vows. So an upasaka asked him, said, if we do not, have our mind being separated from love, compassion, and bodhicitta. If we have our mind, with love, compassion, bodhicitta, then wouldn't you say so that we have created a cause that either directly or indirectly take care of the betterment of sentient beings? In other words, what we're saying is that if we have in our mind love, compassion, and bodhicitta, isn't it the case that we are creating causes to benefit sentient beings either directly or indirectly? Of course, here in the text, the question was asked by an upasaka to Dom Temba, but we have to really think the relevance of that to ourselves,
That's Shambatan. Nanju Shamba Gombatan, Hingi Gombatan. Sanju Sam Gombatan, the Kitchen Chachmu Chagur. Then this is the Madeda, Tanzuki, Shamba Gombatan, Hingi Gombatan, Sanju Semta, Ranjul Yabastan, Madena. Ani Gushu Jusun and Sinki Yindensia that Juchimbu Chagres, Maribas Yun, that can be in those in time, land Nangados.
So as we know, how important it is for us to cultivate love, compassion, and bodhicitta in our mind. So if we cultivate those things in our mind, if our mind is not separated from them, then the question being asked is, aren't we creating causes to benefit sentient beings all the time, whether directly or indirectly? So now the Geshe Temba gives his response.
That can't be Nando. Tembe Henes, Yende Pusun Chopan Jung Juimba. Achang Chetes, Nanjuina Achang Chansigo, that don't say. Achang Chetes, he in the incident.
And here, Dom Temba answers, he said, of course, Achang Che means, for sure, of course, if our mind is not separate from them, of course, that we are creating causes to benefit sentient beings. But we are doing more than that, actually. So when we cultivate those attitudes in our mind, not only are we benefiting other sentient beings, but there's something more. We are also, doing the best for ourselves too. We are also taking care of the betterment of our own interests as well.
다 오나 람데 표준 초바세야 그 람데 표준 저 가르레스 루다 뭐에 셈비나 송거다.
So if people ask, okay, how is that? How do we take care of our own betterment and interests by cultivating love, compassion, and bodhicitta? What does that mean? Taking care of our own interests as well.
That 가르레스나 베나 라데 상주지 상바쳔보다 희지 상주세는 마데나 녀송을 셰기 말을 까나 다 녀송 짠 셰기 말을 까나 셰 미시스 까나도.
So here the great Dhamma says, if we cultivate love, compassion, and bodhicitta in our mind, if our mind is never separated from them, then we ourselves will never be reborn in the unfortunate states of existence.
당 녀송의 셰 미시스 정하래 어느 상주세는 차네 예지 된도 녀송 샤워요 때 이내야 삼기는 샤워게 요레스.
So what that means is that if we truly have those attitudes in our mind, means we become a bodhisattva. So bodhisattvas, may be reborn in the unfortunate states of existence, but it is not. It's more by choice. You see, they take rebirth in the unfortunate states of existence, by the power of their love and compassion and prayers. So it's just by choice they may be reborn in the unfortunate states, and not by karma.
Rendezvous of a tick, Carresana, Tata Ninis, Shamba Jimbo, the Nijim was Shangus around the shape of some gis, Sheba Ninis, Zuntes, Shirmadopa, Kejartups, Shirmadopita, Shangus Sabas and Shirmadopi, and Shirmadopi, Nata Shirmadopa, Shout-ups and Shirmadopas and the Shirmadopa near that. Kuala Shermadobe and the Shermadobe Shagis that making was in the one.
No, Shermadobe was a Kalizuko.
Ben and there, so she Shermadobe said, Palm tongue to the Shermadobe.
And so not only that, we will not be reborn in the unfortunate states with great love, great compassion, and bodhicitta, but through developing such attitudes, we could become bodhisattvas who are categorized or labeled as non-returner, somebody who don't return. Now, what does that mean, non-returner? It could be understood in a number of ways, like those who do not come back to samsara, or in this particular case, it means we could become transcendental bodhisattvas, not just an ordinary being anymore. We could, transcendental bodhisattvas. We call Arya bodhisattvas.
No, this one, got the laying simple chetons. That is, Tangamaka late subchimum Sayat in Yoruba. Late Namik one case, late Namitan. Tata in low bridge chain takwis, the low book and John Hemesa woman sent the Haran Sabi and chain takuki, one king is she see chance at that. You shave in the answer. And she's on. Shamba and he is the same. Kitty my tick, temper samji, Dematatung and Songus Jenny, Denny Tarni, Tori Lata me, Compa, Chabaji tongue never is Canada.
And Domba goes on to say that so even if, say one were to be reborn in the unfortunate states, well, due to certain factors such as, one has created this, tremendous negativity in the past, but that negativity is so powerful that somehow it throws, one into the bad migration, or it is due to some circumstantial, unavoidable conditioning factor that throws us into a bad migration, even though we cultivate, those positive attitudes. But the fact of the matter is, once we remember great love, great compassion, and bodhicitta in the bad migration, we will be liberated just, in no time from such states.
When this are governors. Merge leg one with that Namikin Yobina. That will be combat chubby in a and then Hamak laying about stubby Namitin Yons day on the Minguaris.
I think it's important for us to understand the theoretical, adage to understanding here what we're talking about right now. It's possible that, so even if one is highly realized, but due to the remnant of serious negative action or karma from the past, one could be experience certain negative consequences. That is a possibility theoretically. So we got to understand that theoretical adage here. And even such a case, you see, if we once, as we remember, because in that case it's like, how somebody has become an arahat or arahant, meaning somebody is theoretically liberated from samsara, but due to the remnant of certain negative karmas from the past, they have to experience certain negative outcomes of those remnants of the negative karmas.
And then Lotan Dawatang, and the Shatan, the Lishani, and the Chusation de Guyamar, Kiki and Sundua, Kiki my kick temper some gista, and the somebody needs to pay a young to corridor to send a temper and some gist, and it in a song named Tugris Canandoa.
So should it happen that one were to be reborn in a bad migration because of certain remnant of the negative strong karmas from the past or due to some unavoidable circumstantial factor, but as one remembers great love, great compassion, and bodhicitta in a bad migration, it is as if instantaneously, in no much time, one could be liberated from such state of existence, and one could achieve fortunate rebirths as humans and celestial beings. So the point being made is that sometimes certain strong negative karmas, consequences are totally unavoidable. They are so intense and they may bring their results. But because of great love, great compassion, bodhicitta, we do not have to experience their negative consequences for a long time, which usually is the case. You don't have to go for eons going through suffering. You don't have to go through even months or years or even an hour or two. Just it's like momentarily, as we remember love, compassion, and bodhicitta, great love, great compassion, that's the understanding, we could be liberated right away from such states of existence.
So that there Lendegan do Sukan Nimatan Dawatan and the Salon to cigarettes. Later, Nami to pay Kodoyata. Didn't have a child. So she's late son, the Pap Majan Mena, laying about some pa Tawashe Mena, and then Namiting about the younger Canado.
There are, statements being made about the law of karmas. As it is said in a Buddhist literature, that it may be possible for the planets such as sun and moon to fall down on the earth. That may be a possibility, but nobody can change, the relationship between the negative outcomes and negative karmic actions, or for that matter, the positive outcomes and the positive karmic actions. Nobody can interfere and change that kind of a relationship between, karmic actions and their results. And so therefore, you see, once we create a negative karma, for example, if we do not purify that negative karma, then it is for certain that negative karma will bring its negative ripening result. Nobody can change that. Nobody can interfere into that matter.
So the Ineta, the Bakimbo Kazik Sayonea, that tell Tajimeba, Yakwasina, Tajmebitan Maverick, Taguris.
Now, don't get me wrong here, as if we cannot do anything with negative karmas. That is not the point. The point is, if we create negativities, of course, however strong and intense negative karmas one has created, it is very possible to purify that negative karma, you see, through purification practice. So that is very much there. We could bring about a change in that way. But if we do not, apply antidotes to negative karmas to be purified, then nobody can do anything with the outcomes of the negative karma. They are sure to come.
So, number means Mami call a society Yawashina, the Taji Yabat Sungu.
So in essence, what I just explained is this, that once we create, for example, a negative karma, however strong it is, before it produces its ripening result, which is going to be negative for sure, we could purify our negative karma, which means we do not need to necessarily experience its negative outcome. Now that is a great news and that is a possibility. But if we do not purify our negativity, then as it ripens upon us, when the result is being right here under our nose, so to speak, nobody can change that. We have to just go through it. As we do our practice, or when we say we practice Dharma, that involves two actions. Action number one, we need to accumulate merit and wisdom. That is called tsoksa, accumulation practice. The second action is called purification action, where we need to purify. In the first place, we should not do negativities, but if we happen to do them, we need to purify our negativities. So basically, our practice consists of two actions: accumulate merit and wisdom, purify negativities.
That choice I said, because you may hear so nisa juris. So nisa, double jansen, double nisan juris.
So as I was explaining some other day, that when we talk about tsoksa, means accumulation practice, do the accumulation practice. Accumulation consists of two types of accumulation. And when we talk about purification of practice, purification consists of purifying two types of mental obscuration.
That needed so something is so you say so side, and you're developing to some side of it.
And so basically what we're saying that when we talk about accumulation practice, there are two types of accumulation. Accumulation of merit, sonam in Tibetan, sonam jitsok as a matter of fact, and accumulation of wisdom, yishi jitsok. Those are the two types of accumulation or collection as we would sometimes translate them. Then when we talk about purification practice, there are two types of mental obscurations to be purified. There is what we call the delusive obscuration or delusions called nyuntiv, and then there is the obscuration to omniscience called shetiv. So those are the two types of mental obscurations that need to be purified. So from what we just learned from the great Domtamba's response to the Upasaka is that even if we say we have not developed really great love, great compassion, and bodhicitta deeply inside our mind, but if we do think about these things in our everyday thoughts, and if we do remember great love, great compassion, bodhicitta, just as a thought in our mind, even those are so powerful that they can liberate us right away from bad migration.
Dungi trainer some samba Hindus in that 2000 champion, that thing you going to be zone of that chagurta.
So what do we mean by great compassion? I think, many of you know this already, but for the sake of new people here, in case there are new people here, that's by great compassion, or Nyingchi Chenpo in Tibetan, Mahakaruna in Sanskrit. What we mean is that, we think about all sentient beings who constitute our focus or the object of compassion. So the object of compassion includes every sentient being. Nobody is there to be left out. And then we wish all sentient beings to be free from suffering and its causes. So the subjective aspect of this compassion is wishing everybody to be free from suffering. Okay. So when we cultivate such an attitude or thought, we think about that thought, compassionate thought. We may not have the real compassion in the mind, but we cultivate a compassionate thought, great compassionate thought in the mind, that how nice it would be if sentient beings are free from suffering. Right? Now, in this case, we literally mean sentient beings. We don't have enemies and strangers and friends to deal with, right? Everybody is sentient being. So we wish them to be free from suffering. Even that kind of compassionate thought is so liberating. It could liberate us from a bad migration.
So then, but you want to say, round doing you that round doing you, and you can send you that send you thank you doing the 10 Timaru, somebody shaving, and send you and tell us the time.
So if we find ourselves in the hell, and then there are, of course, other hell beings around us, and everybody is suffering suffering like a hell, or it's suffering in hell. And now somehow we develop compassionate thought that how nice it would be if all others do not have to experience this suffering and be free. That kind of compassionate thought, it can liberate us from the from hell.
That thing that you never understand. You don't have shaving, and it doesn't. Dewa you are married. Doesn't Dewa the den Kimaru Samba shaving, and it Samba Chaviers.
And then in the bad migrations, especially in hells, in the hungry ghost world, and in the lesser animal world, the beings do not have, happiness. There's so much suffering, no happiness. Now, if we sincerely cultivate the thought of love, how nice it would be if these beings are endowed with happiness or find happiness, then that kind of thought of love can liberate us from such bad migration.
Oh, that and there is something that is younger matter 2000 Kabachi, Rihanna and pay, change of that you are taking So we need to train our mind, to have such thoughts of great love and great compassion, even it means on the surface of our mind. We remember them every day now and then. As we, train our mind to remember them so well, then we could easily remember those thoughts. And so that's how it becomes so powerful. No, that thing, don't think June June, don't June, show you go look down on the wall. They answered that, show you less on the wall. Then did Lambrina Yorba, you think they were changing, but they could get in the elections. You think you come, they were conducting, Young King Union. The summer Junko with any yen devan deba, they be Lord, yen devan de be summer in Sumares.
And great Domtemba quotes stanzas from Bodhisattva Mahasattva Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life called Chunju, Engaging in Deeds. And of course these stanzas are quoted often, and we find them quoted in the Lamrim treatises as well. Lamrim is the stages of path to enlightenment. And here the Chunju quotes began with Jitin Tewa Chinyeba. Whatever happiness is there in the universe or the world, all that comes from wishing others to be happy.
That the one getting like doing a condition, Samalo, They go round in duelation, round Devan Duni, round Tenzin Dorjee.
And then it continues, whatever suffering exists in the universe of the world, that comes from, you see, wishing just oneself to be happy. In other words, every suffering in the world comes from our self-centeredness, selfishness.
That is Congress. So no matter courage. Courage in the rally, Devan Duni, ye, and it chid same grace.
So we really need to do a lot of thinking about this to understand the imports or the meanings of these lines. Right? How is that true? So when we are so concerned with our own selfish interests, right, then we do so many things wrong and bring harm to others.
Ran Devan Duni yin Sochi. Ran Devan Duni yin Kumaku. Ran Devan Duni yin Tuwashi. Loyinship.
So, for the sake of one's own self-interest, we could go to the extent of killing someone. If that means killing someone will fulfill my own needs, selfish interests. In order to fulfill one's selfish interest, we go to the extent of stealing from others. In order to, fulfill one's selfish interest, we go and engage in adultery, and so on and so forth, all kinds of negativities. To fulfill one's selfish happiness, we go and deceive and cheat others. To fulfill one's selfish, happiness, we go and cause disharmony among other people. And in order to fulfill one's selfish happiness, we and go and indulge in idle gossiping. And for the same goal, we go and speak harsh words against others. And with the same goal, hidden agenda or not even hidden, we go and we kind of covet for others' goods. And in order to fulfill one's selfish happiness, we even hold very dearly this, feeling to hurt and harm others. And for one's selfish happiness or gains, we go and engage in the wrong views and distorted views. So in that and in many other ways, that just to fulfill one's selfish happiness or self-interest, we just can go into to all extent to engage in all kinds of negativities which are harmful to others. And then the stanza continues here. It says, what need there is more to talk about? Just look at just look at how childish sentient beings are so preoccupied with their self-interest, and how Buddha's enlightened beings have benefited or worked for the benefit of others. Just look at the difference between Buddhas working for others and childish sentient beings working only for their self-interest. And as I explained this before, quoting lines from Guru Puja or Lama Sherpa, we also talk where the lines to highlight the difference between ourselves as ordinary sentient beings and enlightened beings of the Buddhas. So Buddhas have dedicated themselves for the benefit of other sentient beings, and where do we find them? They are in the Buddha fields, pure environments. So So where do we find ourselves, ordinary sentient beings who have worked so tirelessly and for our own selfish interests? We are stuck in samsara. We are in samsara and we are stuck here. And so that difference itself should tell us, tell us what we should be doing.
That is what they are saying. That they are not just the ane shamba dan hinge dan shanju semne ran dan yin ke ene ten chembo ndrupe ta ji zo yin so ta ji ya ta wa jin so da.
So with those quotations and explanation, Great Dampa tells or concludes that part of the response, saying that therefore, he said, cultivating great love, great compassion, and bodhicitta are the primary causes to benefit, to fulfill great purposes for the sake of both self and others.
That the ane shamba dan hinge dan shanju send sumbote ane senke la mini aranju le shegu.
So those positive attitudes, great love, great compassion, bodhicitta, these all need to be and should be cultivated in relation to, with reference to sentient beings.
Senke kanda ji ne ane shamba den hinge shanju se ranju le shewi ta shewi hit of Quran su yin samne te ku yepse. Shegu.
By recognizing that every sentient being provides us the basis for cultivating love, compassion, and bodhicitta, we need to respect every sentient being.
Then, Tangan Shivia Marina calling Ngalu Koshi sometime to take the something Mambatambina, that's Unzupe, Ran Julia Shamba, and he and Julia Mishivita, Shiva, that Kimuchag was.
And I don't think we do this, but that, if we go on a very ego trip, right, I am the one, and I am the better one, and I know this, and, when we end up looking down upon others, such attitudes, become an obstacle for cultivating great love, great compassion for other sentient beings.
And then somebody hinge shanju sem sumbote ta kai chimu chang.
So if we ask ourselves what should be our core meditational practices or core things to be meditated upon, so our cores here constitute great love, great compassion, and bodhicitta.
So that shamba chembo den hinge chembo shanju sem ranjuli yabina that this sumbote gani so so any tiba chimbe lamle yan dus trinang.
So if we cultivate great love, great compassion, and bodhicitta in our minds, then these attitudes lead us into the paths of Mahayana, leading to complete enlightenment. If one wants to become an enlightened being or a Buddha, then one must follow and cultivate the path of Mahayana, and there is no second path leading to enlightenment. So in order to become a Buddha, one must cultivate the Mahayana path.
Yes.
And we will stop there today. And we will stop there today, and I have some announcements and prayer requests. So I'll do the prayer request first for those who have passed away, and the names I have been given are Lauren Grant Hilliard, 90 years old, passed away. Simon Lau, 34 years old. And if you have been following the news, because of that non-violent pro-democracy, protest led by the monks, hundreds of monks in Burma. So, according to the reports, 9 have been killed. That included several monks, but that could be more than 9. We are talking about the junta regime, who controls every news. So so we think about those who have been killed, in this peaceful demonstration in Burma. And we have prayer requests for those, and also Nick Pomadikov passed away too. So we pray for them. And then I have few names who are dealing with health issues. Henry Anthony Ortega, 11 years old, and he's really dealing with brain tumor here. And also Ken Nguyen Ethan, who's a very baby and may not live. He's got a brain damage. Diana Matthews. And then, of course, again, in the non-violent, peaceful demonstrations in Burma, many people got injured and imprisoned. We have to think about them as well. So those are the prayer requests. And now I have brief announcements here. As you leave the GDL in the lobby, you will find some handouts there from Annie. So the requests are that ICT, International Campaign for Tibet, would like to ask everyone, if you could, write to our representatives, senators and congressmen, to thank them, those who supported awarding the Congressional Gold Medal to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So write letters to thank them for their support. The second one is on October 17th, His Holiness will be awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, in the Capitol Rotunda, led by Nancy Pelosi, and President Bush will be there. And then that will be at about 1. And then at 2:30, His Holiness will give a free public address on the west lawn of the White House. And so there's a big, event being organized by ICT. And so that involves a lot of expenses. They have to raise a lot of money to pay for the security, for the, sound system, and you just name it, And it's a big celebration. So ICT would appreciate if we could make any donations, towards that. And if people are interested in making donations for ICT, our suggestion is you could write a check to TDL, but in the memo, you can endorse it for the ICT Gold Medal Celebration event. And then TDL will, send all of those checks or write a big check on our behalf so that we are represented well in that. And so people, I think the Tibetans and friends everywhere in the world will be celebrating this event in big ways. By the power of collective merit that we have generated together this morning, May Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness, flourishes throughout the world. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other great holy masters live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. So in short, we dedicate our marriage for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly.
아니 대신에 선주시나